The voicemail lasted 43 seconds, and by the end of it, my career was already dead. I was sitting alone in the women's locker room beneath the Eastbridge Aquatic Center, still wearing my race suit, when Coach Celia Ward's name lit up my screen. The national trials had ended 20 minutes earlier. I had finished fourth in the 200-meter butterfly, 6/100ths of a second outside qualification. My lungs still burned. Chlorine stung my eyes. Somewhere beyond the concrete walls, reporters were celebrating the 3 women who had made the team, while volunteers dismantled banners bearing my face. Celia did not mean to call me. I knew that before I answered because I heard her voice already moving, distant and sharp, speaking to someone in the passenger seat of her car. A man answered, too muffled to identify. Celia spoke again. No. Mara cannot prove anything. She signs whatever I put in front of her. She always has. I stopped breathing. Then fabric scraped against the phone. Celia's voice came closer. If she asks about the injection, say it was vitamin B12. Delete the clinic log before Monday. And make sure she deletes my voicemail. The call ended. For several seconds, the only sound in the locker room was water dripping from my hair onto the tiles. I stared at the screen, expecting the recording to vanish because something that dangerous should not remain inside something as ordinary as a phone. A text arrived immediately. Coach Celia. Accidental call. Delete it now. Private staff conversation. Then another. Coach Celia. Confirm when done. My thumb hovered over the voicemail. I had trusted Celia Ward for 11 years. She taught me how to breathe into pain, how to turn panic into pace, how to make a body obey when instinct begged it to stop. After my mother died, Celia attended the funeral, stood beside me at the grave, and promised she would never let grief steal the future we had built. When I tore my shoulder at 19, she sat beside my hospital bed all night. When sponsors said I was too old for a comeback at 24, she called them cowards and found new money. She was not simply my coach. She was the person who had taught me what loyalty looked like. Or so I thought. I replayed the message. Leah is clean on paper. Mara's sample carries the flag. If she asks about the injection, say it was vitamin B12. My race bag sat open on the bench beside me. In the front pocket was a white clinic form Celia had told me to sign before a warm-up. She said it confirmed treatment for muscle tightness. I had not read it. I had been nervous, late, and desperate to race. I signed where she pointed. The voicemail had predicted that too. She signs whatever I put in front of her. A fist struck the locker room door. Mara? Celia called. Open up. I locked my phone and slid it beneath the folded towel at the bottom of my bag. The door opened before I answered. Celia stepped inside wearing the navy blazer reserved for major meets. Her silver blonde hair was still perfect. Her accreditation badge bounced against her chest as she crossed the room. You heard something you were not meant to hear, she said. Not hello. Not congratulations. Not I'm sorry you missed the team by 6/100ths. What injection? I asked. Her face remained calm. The anti-inflammatory shot you received this morning. You told me it was B12. It contained B12. And what else? Nothing prohibited. Then why is my sample carrying a flag? A small muscle moved beside her mouth. You misunderstood. I can replay it. That conversation concerned compliance paperwork. Leah's therapeutic exemption was filed correctly. Yours may trigger an administrative review because Dr. Voss entered the wrong treatment code. Why would they strip my result? They will not. You said they would. I was discussing the worst-case scenario. You said it like a plan. Celia sat on the bench opposite me, lowering herself until our knees nearly touched. Her voice softened into the tone she used before difficult races. Mara, listen to me. You are exhausted and devastated. Your mind is searching for someone to blame because accepting the result hurts. I understand. But that recording includes confidential medical information about another athlete. Keeping it could violate Federation policy and privacy law. Fear shifted shape inside me. Celia was good at that. She could turn accusation into concern before I realized the ground had moved. Delete it, she said. Then we go upstairs, face the press, and prepare the appeal. I may still get you onto the team. You just said there would not be an appeal. There are always options. For me or for Leah? Her eyes cooled. Leah Mercer was 18, brilliant, marketable, and trained in the lane beside mine. She had finished 5th at trials, 2/10ths behind me. 6 months earlier, Celia began calling Leah the future of Eastbridge. I told myself I was not jealous. I helped Leah with turns, shared recovery meals, and defended her when older swimmers resented the attention she received. Now my coach had described a way to erase my 4th place and move Leah above me. Celia extended her hand. Your phone.
No.
The word surprised both of us. She blinked once. Excuse me? I said no. For 11 years, I had answered Celia with yes, coach. Yes to another set. Yes to training through fever. Yes to missing birthdays, weddings, university exams, relationships, and sleep. Yes had become less a word than a reflex. No felt like surfacing. Celia stood. You have 5 minutes to make the sensible choice. And if I don't? Her expression changed. Not much. Just enough. Then I cannot protect you from what comes next. I waited until her footsteps disappeared, then took out my phone. I forwarded the voicemail to my private email, uploaded it to cloud storage, and sent a copy to my older sister, Nessa, with 6 words. Do not delete this.
Call me.
Then I opened the clinic form. At the bottom, beneath my signature, someone had written the name of a substance I recognized from every anti-doping seminar I had ever attended. Triamcinolone, a corticosteroid restricted during competition without a therapeutic exemption. The form was dated 3 days earlier. I had never seen it before that morning. Upstairs, my name was already being announced over the public address system. Not for 4th place. For a provisional anti-doping suspension. Cameras waited outside the locker room entrance, their red lights already awake. A Federation official I knew only as Mr. Hanley stood between 2 security guards holding a sealed envelope. Behind him, Celia had arranged her face into grief. Mara Ellison, Hanley said, you are hereby notified of an adverse analytical finding from an in-competition sample collected after the semi-final on Thursday. Pending confirmation and review, you are provisionally suspended from all Federation activities. Thursday. The injection had been that morning, not before the semi-final. I looked at Celia. She did not meet my eyes. Reporters began shouting. Mara, did you knowingly take a banned substance? Were you doping during last year's World Championships? Is your 4th place result invalid? Someone asked whether Celia had known. She stepped forward before I could answer. I am shocked, she said. Mara has always presented herself as an athlete of integrity. I will cooperate fully with the investigation. Presented herself. Not has always been. The distinction was surgical. I pulled out my phone. Celia's gaze snapped toward it. For the first time, panic touched her face. I nearly played the voicemail through the corridor speakers. Then Nessa called. Her name filled the screen, and instinct overruled anger. I answered. Do not say anything there, she said without greeting. Do not hand over your phone. I am coming. Nessa was a solicitor who represented nurses, teachers, and public employees in disciplinary cases. She knew nothing about elite swimming, but she knew how institutions protected themselves. I need to tell them what happened, I whispered. You need to preserve what happened. Those are different things. Hanley extended the envelope. Ms. Ellison? I took it and said only, I deny knowingly using any prohibited substance. My lawyer will respond. Celia stepped closer. Mara, let me help you. The cameras caught her reaching for my arm. I stepped away. That image led every sports bulletin that night. The disgraced swimmer rejecting the comfort of her devastated coach. By the time Nessa reached my apartment, sponsors had frozen 2 contracts. The Federation had removed my profile from its trials page, and strangers were dissecting my body on television. Commentators replayed old races and called my late career improvement suspicious. A former teammate posted that some athletes would do anything to stay relevant. My 4th place disappeared from the official results. Leah moved up. Exactly as the voicemail predicted. Nessa entered carrying a laptop, 2 chargers, and the expression she had worn at Mum's funeral when relatives try to tell us how grief should look.
Phone, she said.
I gave it to her. She copied the original file, photographed the metadata, downloaded my cloud backup, and placed the device inside a zippered evidence pouch she had brought from her office. You expected this?
I asked.
I expected Celia to claim the voicemail was edited once she realized you kept it. She told me deleting it was about privacy. Of course she did. People rarely begin with a threat when guilt can do the work. I showed Nessa the clinic form. She read it twice. You signed this. The signature is mine. Did you see the drug name?
No.
Did anyone explain the treatment? Celia said I was getting B12 and fluids. Who injected you? Dr. Voss. Team doctor? Private sports physician. Celia sends everyone to him. Nessa photographed each page. The form says he examined you 3 days ago. I was in Melbourne 3 days ago. Can you prove that? I raced there. There are thousands of witnesses. For the first time that night, hope appeared. Then Nessa turned the form over. On the back was a handwritten note. Athlete reports severe shoulder inflammation unresponsive to standard treatment. Risks and prohibited status explained. Athlete requests injection despite potential competition consequences. Beneath it was another signature.
Mine.
I stared at the curve of the M, the long loop in Ellison. It looked convincing until I noticed the final stroke bent left. I always finished right. That one is forged, I said.
Nessa nodded.
We need a document examiner, your full medical file, access logs from the clinic, and the chain of custody for your sample. And the voicemail? It is powerful, but not enough alone. Celia will say she was discussing paperwork after the laboratory finding. We need to prove the sequence. The result was announced minutes after she called me. She may claim she had advance notice. She said delete the clinic log. That helps. But the unidentified man matters. If we identify him, the recording becomes more than ambiguous language. I replayed his muffled answer through the laptop speakers. 2 seconds of low speech, distorted by road noise. Nessa increased the volume. The man said something ending in Monday. I knew the cadence, but not the voice. What happens now? I asked. We request the B sample test and an emergency hearing. We tell no one about the voicemail until we know who else is involved. No one. Especially not the Federation. It sounded paranoid. 20 minutes later, someone tried to access my email account from an address registered to Eastbridge Aquatic Center. Nessa changed every password, disabled remote logins, and looked at me across the dining table. How many people knew about the recording?
Celia. You.
Maybe whoever was in the car. Then one of them believes a copy is in your email. My apartment buzzer rang. I froze. Nessa checked the building camera on my wall monitor. Leah stood in the lobby wearing a hooded sweatshirt, face hidden beneath a cap. Do you trust her? Nessa asked. Yesterday, I would have said yes. Not anymore. Good answer. Let her in anyway. Leah entered shaking. She was younger without team makeup and sponsor clothing, almost painfully so. A purple trials wristband remained around her wrist. I didn't know, she said. I stayed near the kitchen. Know what? About your sample. About the result change. Celia told me you withdrew because your shoulder failed. You watched me finish. She said you were disqualified afterward. For what? Leah's eyes filled. She didn't say. Nessa closed the apartment door. Why are you here? Leah looked at her, then me. Because Coach told me to delete my messages. My skin prickled. What messages? Leah unlocked her phone. The thread with Celia contained months of instructions about food, sleep, weight, supplements, media responses, and private appointments. Several messages from that morning stood out. Coach Celia. Voss will file the exemption. Do not discuss the medication with Mara. Coach Celia. If Mara asks, you received saline only. Coach Celia. Clear this thread after trials. I looked at Leah. What medication? She pulled up her sleeve. A yellow bruise spread inside her elbow. Dr. Voss injected me too, she said. But Celia said mine was iron. Nessa asked, did you sign a form?
No.
Coach signed for me. You are 18. I turned 18 last month. And before that, Leah looked down. Coach signed everything. The shape of the scandal widened. This was not simply about replacing me with Leah. Celia had created different paperwork for each of us, keeping Leah clean on paper while attaching the prohibited treatment to my name. Why? I asked. Why give either of us triamcinolone? Leah shook her head. My shoulder doesn't hurt. Mine does, I said. But not enough to need an injection. Nessa leaned forward. What did you feel after the shot? Leah thought.
Warm.
Then strange. My heart raced during warm-up, but I swam faster than I ever have. Triamcinolone did not explain that. What else was in it? I asked. She began crying. I don't know. A loud crack came from the hall. The apartment lights went out. Nessa moved first. She pulled Leah behind the kitchen wall and pressed a finger to her lips. I grabbed the heavy marble trophy Mum had hated because it collected dust. The front door handle turned.
Once. Twice.
Then the lock began to scrape. Someone was trying a key. Nessa pointed toward the balcony. We lived on the 3rd floor. There was nowhere to go except across a narrow divider into my neighbor's unit, and Mrs. Dalka was 78, hard of hearing and likely asleep. The deadbolt snapped. I lifted the trophy. The door opened 6 inches, stopped by the security chain, and a gloved hand reached through. Nessa slammed a dining chair beneath the handle. Police are coming, she shouted. The hand withdrew. Footsteps raced toward the stairwell. The lights returned 30 seconds later. No police were coming. Nessa had not risked making a call that might announce the voicemail to local officers before we knew who was compromised. She dialed emergency services, now while I checked the hallway. The intruder had left a thin strip of metal inside the lock. At the far end of the corridor, the fire door swung closed. Building security recovered grainy footage of a person in maintenance overalls entering through the underground garage. The cap concealed his face, but he moved with a slight inward turn of the right foot. I had seen that walk at every training session for 7 years. Darren Holt, I said. East Bridge's equipment manager. Nessa did not answer. Pack enough for 2 nights. Both of you. I'm not leaving my apartment. You are not staying in a location Celia can enter using a copied key. She doesn't have a key. Nessa looked toward the broken lock. I remembered giving Celia one during my shoulder surgery. She had brought groceries and fed my cat while I recovered. I never asked for it back. By midnight, the 3 of us were in a budget hotel under Nessa's surname. She slept in the chair with a lamp on. Leah took the second bed. I lay awake listening to the air conditioner rattle and replaying 11 years of memories, searching for the point at which care had become control. At 4:06 a.m., I remembered the red notebook. Celia made every swimmer keep one. Training sets, resting heart rate, menstrual cycle, medications, body weight, mood. She called it the honesty book. Once a week, we left it in a locked drawer beside her office, and she reviewed it alone. Mine contained proof that I had been in Melbourne when the forged medical examination supposedly occurred. More importantly, it recorded every supplement and treatment Celia had ordered for 2 years. The notebook was still at Eastbridge. Nessa refused to let me retrieve it alone. By 6, she had obtained advice from a barrister and arranged for a licensed investigator named Theo Park to meet us outside the center. Theo was small, quiet, and dressed like a man going to repair an office printer. He carried a body camera beneath his jacket and spoke only after listening. We enter during public lap swimming hours, he said. You retrieve your property. We do not search desks, open staff cabinets, or touch anything that is not yours. If access is refused, we leave. The notebook is in Celia's drawer, I said. Your notebook or her drawer? Both. That defeats the purpose. It preserves the case. I hated him immediately, which Nessa said was evidence he was useful. At 6:42, Eastbridge smelled exactly as it always had, Chlorine, coffee, damp concrete, and ambition. Junior swimmers filled the main pool, while parents watched from metal benches. My face had been removed from the champion's wall. A pale rectangle remained between two framed photographs. Pattern interruption? I laughed. It burst out of me so suddenly that Theo turned. 11 years of records, medals, injuries, and unpaid promotional appearances, erased overnight with 4 strips of mounting tape. The cruelty was so efficient it became absurd. What? Nessa asked. They didn't even repaint. Celia appeared on the upper walkway. Conversation around the pool thinned. Parents pretended not to stare. She descended the stairs slowly, projecting disappointment rather than alarm. You are suspended, she said. You cannot enter a Federation training area. Public lap hours, Nessa replied. Mara is here to collect personal property. Celia looked at Leah. You missed recovery. Leah moved closer to me. I'm not training today. You do not make that decision alone. I'm 18. You are under contract. Nessa raised her phone. Repeat that. Celia ignored her. Mara, this performance will not change your test. A flicker. Tiny but real. You have requested it? My lawyer has. It will confirm the first result. You sound certain. Science is generally consistent. What was in Leah's injection? The junior swimmers had stopped at the wall. Their coach blew a whistle, ordering them onward. Celia lowered her voice. You are involving a child in your panic. Leah is an adult when you need her signature and a child when she asks questions. Leah flinched. Celia reached for her.
Come upstairs.
We can discuss this privately. Leah stepped back.
No.
It was her first no. I recognized the shock on Celia's face. Theo positioned himself between them without touching anyone. We are retrieving Ms. Ellison's notebook. Celia's attention shifted to him. Who are you? A witness. The notebook is Federation property. My medical history is not Federation property, I said. The data was collected as part of the performance program. You told us it was private. It is confidential. Confidential things can still belong to the person they describe. Celia folded her arms. The notebooks were transferred yesterday for compliance review. To whom? The Federation. Which officer? I do not report administrative details to suspended athletes. A voice sounded behind her. I might. Mr. Hanley stood at the top of the stairs holding a takeaway coffee. His expression was unreadable. Celia turned. Robert, this is being handled. Hanley descended until he stood beside us. No athlete notebooks were transferred to my office. Celia did not blink. Not your office. Medical compliance. I supervise medical compliance. The lie remained between them, visible now. Celia recovered quickly. Darren may not have completed the courier request. Theo asked, where is Mr. Holt? He called in sick. After breaking into my apartment? I said. Parents turned openly this time. Celia's face lost color. That accusation is defamatory. Then he will enjoy clearing it up with police. Hanley set down his coffee. Celia, open your office. You do not have authority over club premises. I have authority to suspend accreditation pending an integrity concern. And I have counsel. Call them after you open the door. For 10 seconds, no one moved. Then Celia smiled. Of course, she said. I have nothing to hide. That sentence should have warned us. Her office had been emptied, not tidied, stripped. The computer, filing drawers, mini fridge, medication cabinet, athlete notebooks, and even the paper shredder were gone. Dust outlined where equipment had stood. Only a desk, 2 chairs, and a framed photograph remained. The photograph showed Celia beside my mother at my first national junior final. On the back, written in Mum's handwriting, were the words, "Don't let her turn winning into the price of being loved." I read the sentence twice. Then I noticed the date. My mother had written it 9 years before she died. Long before I believed there was anything to fear. Mum had never liked Celia. I had rewritten that memory after her death because Celia stayed and Mum did not. In my version, Their arguments were ordinary disagreements between an anxious parent and a demanding coach. Mom wanted school attendance, family dinners, and one weekend each month without training. Celia wanted excellence. I chose excellence, then blamed Mom for making the choice painful. Now her warning sat in my hand. Don't let her turn winning into the price of being loved.
Nessa photographed it.
Do you remember why she wrote this?
No. Ido.
I looked at her. You were 16. You lost the junior final and Celia refused to speak to you for 4 days. Mom called it punishment. You called it focus. The memory returned in pieces. Celia walking past me on deck, answering everyone except me, withholding even eye contact until I broke a personal record in training. Afterward, she hugged me and said, "There you are. I knew you would come back." I had mistaken relief for love. Hamley ordered the pool closed to accredited training and called Federation investigators. Celia left with her lawyer before anyone could formally question her. The empty office gave us suspicion, not proof. She claimed vandals had stolen the equipment overnight and blamed my public allegations for encouraging them. Her excuse lasted 40 minutes. Then police found Darren Holt's van behind the center. Inside were the office computer, medical cabinet, shredded athlete records, and 18 red notebooks. Mine was not among them. Neither was Leah's. Darren had disappeared. By afternoon, the story was no longer about a single positive test. Parents demanded medical records. Former Eastbridge athletes described injections they had never understood, blank forms they were told to sign, and injuries concealed before major meets. 2 women said Celia threatened to remove scholarships if they consulted independent doctors. Another produced messages instructing her to report a false menstrual history to Federation physicians so her dangerously low body weight would appear normal. Celia issued a statement calling the allegations a coordinated campaign by disappointed former athletes. She also said the voicemail was an unlawfully retained fragment of a privileged medical discussion, deliberately stripped of context. We had not released it. That line confirmed she expected it to become public. Nessa found us an audio forensics specialist named Priya Sun, who examined the original file in a soundproof studio. She confirmed it had not been edited and isolated the man's voice beneath traffic noise. "Play that again," Leah said. Priya replayed 4 words. "Before the courier comes Monday." Leah gripped my sleeve. "That's Darren." I heard it once she named him. The flattened vowels, the soft whistle on the letter S. Priya enhanced another section we had thought was fabric noise. Beneath Celia's final command, Darren said, "Voss won't keep taking the risk." 3 people, not 2. Coach, equipment manager, doctor. A structure. The B sample test was scheduled for Wednesday at an independent laboratory. Nessa and I attended with an expert observer. Celia sent counsel, but did not appear. I watched technicians open the sealed container, document every number, and prepare the remaining specimen. The result arrived the following morning. Negative. Not lower than the threshold. Not inconclusive. No triamcinolone detected. Hanley called me personally. "This is highly irregular." Say the next part. "Your provisional suspension is lifted pending investigation." And my result. Temporarily reinstated. Temporarily? The A sample remains unexplained. The A sample was tampered with. We cannot state that yet. But Celia could state I lacked integrity before the B sample was tested. He had no answer. The negative result should have restored everything. Instead, commentators asked whether I had found a technical loophole. Sponsors waited. The selection committee said the national team roster was already final. Leah remained listed as 4th because her relay paperwork had been processed during my suspension. The plan had succeeded even after the drug accusation failed. I understood then that Celia never needed a permanent conviction. She needed 48 hours. Leah's new representation contract provided the reason. She brought it to Nessa's office folded inside a swim cap. Celia had arranged it 2 months earlier through an agency called North Star Performance. The agreement granted North Star 20% of Leah's earnings, image rights, appearance fees, and future sponsorships. A qualification bonus worth $400,000 activated if Leah made the national team. North Star's registered director was a retired accountant in another state. Its controlling trust belonged to Celia's brother. She told me every elite athlete signed something like this, Leah whispered. Nessa read the conflict clause. Did you receive independent legal advice? Coach said lawyers complicate opportunities. Did your parents see it? She said I was finally old enough to stop letting them interfere. Celia had not merely preferred Leah. She owned a hidden share of Leah's future. My removal was worth $80,000 immediately, perhaps millions over a career. We still needed the missing clinic log and proof connecting Celia to the contaminated sample. The laboratory's chain of custody records showed the samples left trials in a locked transport case carried by an accredited courier. Darren Holt. At 9:17 that night, he called me from a blocked number. I saw what she did to your apartment, he said. I didn't go inside. You broke the lock. I wanted the phone before Celia sent someone worse. Who is worse? Silence. Darren, the beast sample was negative. I know. You transported both bottles. I did what I was told. Where is my notebook? He began breathing quickly. She kept it separate. Where? Voss's clinic. Basement records room. Are you there? A metal door slammed on his end. Darren whispered. She knows I called. The line went dead. We contacted police, but Dr. Voss reported no one at the clinic and denied having a basement records room. The building plans showed only 2 floors and a crawl space. Theo examined the plans for less than a minute. The original structure had a hydrotherapy pool, he said. Renovation documents say it was filled in. Filled in with what? Nessa asked. The permit never passed final inspection. At dawn, police obtained a warrant based on Darren's call, the van evidence, and the altered medical forms. Beneath a removable section of clinic flooring, they found stairs. The hidden room smelled of bleach and wet plaster. Police found Darren unconscious beside the old pool drain with a head wound, my red notebook tucked beneath his jacket. He survived. Dr. Voss was arrested at the airport that afternoon carrying cash, 2 passports, and a laptop containing scanned consent forms for 43 athletes. Most were altered. Some signatures were forged. Some treatment dates placed athletes in the clinic while competition records proved they were in other cities. Several files listed prohibited medications under the names of retired swimmers who had not trained at Eastbridge for years. My file contained the original clinic log. At 7:12 on trials morning, Celia had written, Emmy receives saline and B12 only. No therapeutic exemption required. At 7:19, Voss added a second entry. CW requests prepared positive control for education demonstration. At 8:03, the entry was deleted. The server had retained it. By then, Leah would already have my place. Celia had designed a scandal with an expiry date. She expected my reputation to remain stained after the suspension disappeared. She was right about how quickly suspicion traveled and wrong about how far evidence could follow. The Federation scheduled an emergency integrity hearing in the same conference hall where athletes had signed team agreements. Celia attended in white, flanked by 2 lawyers. Her accreditation was suspended, but she still moved like the room belonged to her. Former swimmers filled the public seats. Leah sat beside me. Nessa arranged our documents into precise stacks. The panel chair asked Celia whether she had instructed me to delete a voicemail. Did you say Ms. Ellison's sample carried a flag? I referred to her medical declaration. Did you say her result would be stripped? I described a possible regulatory outcome. Did you instruct someone to delete a clinic log?
No.
Nessa played the recording. Celia listened without moving. When it ended, her lawyer said the phrase was unclear and might have been complete the clinic log, not delete. Priya presented the spectral analysis. The consonants were visible in the waveform and audible in 4 enhanced versions.
Delete.
Celia changed direction. She said she had discovered irregular paperwork that morning and was urgently trying to correct it. She claimed Mara's sample carries the flag meant my form would attract attention, Not that anyone planned to contaminate the specimen. She said her request that I delete the voicemail was a clumsy attempt to protect Leah's privacy. The panel chair placed the clinic log on the screen. Why did you record that Ms. Ellison received only saline and B12? Because that was my understanding. Why did Dr. Voss note your request for a positive control? I cannot explain his records. Why was that entry deleted? I cannot explain his conduct. Mr. Holt is a thief seeking leniency. Her story bent, but did not break. Celia had spent decades teaching athletes to survive pressure. She knew how to remain composed while each defense narrowed. Then the panel asked about North Star performance. She denied any financial interest. Nessa produced the trust records. Celia said her brother's business was independent. Nessa produced emails in which Celia negotiated Leah's percentage, approval rights, and qualification bonus. Celia said she was helping an inexperienced athlete secure representation. Leah took the witness seat. Her hands shook until she placed them flat on the table. Coach Ward told me North Star charged less than other agencies. Did she disclose that her family controlled it? The chair asked.
No.
Did she discuss Mara Ellison's possible suspension with you before trials? Leah swallowed. She told me not to worry if I finished behind Mara because the final order might change. The room went silent. Celia looked at her. Not angrily. Worse. She used the expression that had controlled us for years. Disappointed love, carefully withdrawn. Leah's voice faltered. I knew that silence. I knew the desperate urge to take back the truth, so warmth would return. I reached beneath the table and held her hand. She continued. Coach said Mara was emotionally unstable and might sabotage me. She told me not to speak with her without permission. She said if I followed instructions, I could become the daughter she never had. A former swimmer in the audience began crying. Celia finally lost control. You ungrateful child, she said. Her lawyer touched her arm. She pulled away. Every one of you came to me asking to be exceptional. Your parents wanted medals. Sponsors wanted stories. The Federation wanted podiums. I delivered them. Now you are shocked that excellence required decisions you were too weak to make. The panel chair warned her to stop. She stood instead. Mara would have retired after the season. Her shoulder is degenerating. Leah has 10 years ahead of her. One administrative suspension moved the right athlete forward. No one lost anything that time had not already taken. There it was. Not misunderstanding. Not privacy. Not concern. A calculation. I rose before Nessa could stop me. You took my name. Celia looked directly at me. I gave you that name. My mother gave it to me. Your mother would have kept you ordinary. My mother wanted me loved when I lost. Celia's face tightened. I continued. You made winning the rent I paid to stay close to you. Then you chose someone younger and tried to evict me from my own life. She laughed once. And yet here you are still performing.
No.
This is the first time I am not. The hearing ended 40 minutes later. Celia Ward received a lifetime ban from accredited sport. The Federation referred evidence to prosecutors, voided North Star's contract, reinstated my result, and reopened selection. Dr. Voss lost his medical license pending criminal proceedings. Darren pleaded guilty and agreed to testify. None of those outcomes repaired the athletes whose bodies and choices had been managed as club property, but they ended Celia's power to create new victims. The selection committee offered me a relay place. I asked for one night to decide. At 5 the next morning, I entered East Bridge through the public doors. My photograph had returned to the champion's wall, now beside a statement praising my courage. Institutions adore courage after the danger becomes embarrassing. The main pool was empty. I changed into an old black training suit, walked to lane 4, and sat on the starting block. For 11 years, Celia's voice had lived in that room. I could hear every command she had ever given me. Higher elbows. Do not breathe. Pain is information. Again. 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 My phone rested beside my towel. The voicemail remained saved in 3 secure locations, but I no longer needed to replay it. I pressed record and made a new one. My name is Mara Ellison, I said. I did not knowingly use a prohibited substance. My coach arranged the contamination of my sample to remove me from national selection. This statement is for every athlete who is taught that obedience was gratitude. Keep your records. Read before you sign. Ask what is entering your body. A person who loves your talent must still respect your no. I sent the recording to every Eastbridge athlete whose number I had. Then I dove. The first length felt terrible. My timing was late, my shoulders heavy, my breath too high in my chest. Without Celia counting from the deck, the pool seemed longer. At the wall, I almost stopped. Pattern interruption. Nobody shouted.
No whistle.
No threat. No punishment disguised as silence. I chose to push off. On the fourth length, rhythm returned. Not the old rhythm, built from fear of disappointing her. Something quieter.
Mine.
I accepted the relay place that afternoon, but I changed coaches and training centers. At the international meet 3 months later, I did not win. Our team finished 5th. I climbed from the pool, smiling so widely that a reporter asked whether I understood the result. I do, I said. It belongs to me. Leah withdrew from competition for a season. When she returned, she trained under a coach chosen with independent advice and kept her own medical records. We did not become effortless best friends. Too much had happened for an easy ending. We became something more useful. Witnesses for each other. A year later, Nessa and I helped establish an athlete advocacy clinic beside the renovated public pool. The first rule was printed above the front desk. Nothing about you without you. My red notebook sits in a glass case there, open to the page Celia tried to erase. Beside it is Mum's photograph and her warning about love. Young athletes sometimes ask why I kept the voicemail when deleting it would have made everything easier. I tell them easier is not the same as safe. Celia's excuse crumbled because one recording survived her authority, but the voicemail did more than expose her. It captured the instant I heard how little she believed I belonged to myself. Keeping it was the first decision of my new life. 6 months after the clinic opened, a 14-year-old swimmer named Zoe came through the door with her father. She wore her school uniform and carried a cracked phone in both hands. Her coach had been sending messages about weigh-ins, secret supplements, and extra sessions that were not listed on the club program. Nothing in the messages sounded dramatic by itself. That was the point. Control rarely announces itself with a confession. It arrives as one reasonable request, then another, until a child believes discomfort is evidence of commitment. Zoe's father kept apologizing. He said he should have noticed earlier. Zoe kept defending the coach. She said he cared more than anyone. She said he knew what champions needed. She said refusing him would prove she was not serious. I heard my younger self in every sentence. I did not tell her what decision to make. That surprised me. A year earlier, I might have confused rescue with taking control. Instead, I explained her rights, helped her preserve the messages, and arranged an independent medical examination. Nessa reviewed the club contract. Leah, now volunteering twice a month, sat beside Zoe and showed her how to maintain a private treatment record. Before leaving, Zoe asked whether reporting the coach would destroy her career. Maybe it changes the career you imagined, I said. But a career that requires you to surrender ownership of yourself is already being destroyed. She looked toward the notebook in the glass case. Were you scared? Completely. But you sounded brave at the hearing. That was editing. The fear happened between every sentence. She smiled a little. 3 weeks later, the club removed the coach pending investigation. 5 other athletes came forward. Zoe transferred to another program, where her new coach allowed parents on deck and explained every training decision. She sent us a photograph after her first meet. She had finished 7th and written across the bottom, in bright green marker, "This result belongs to me." I placed the picture beside Mum's warning. That was when I understood the voicemail's final purpose. Evidence is not only a weapon aimed backward at the person who caused harm. Sometimes it becomes a bridge forward, giving the next girl language before silence hardens around her. Celia was eventually convicted of fraud, evidence tampering, and conspiracy. At sentencing, She described herself as a casualty of an unforgiving sporting system. She apologized for procedural mistakes, but not for choosing my body, Leah's future, or Darren's fear as tools. The judge said remorse required recognizing other people as more than instruments. I did not attend. That morning, I coached a beginner session at the public pool. I asked 12 girls what they wanted to learn. Their answers included diving, breathing, turning, floating, racing, and not being afraid of deep water. Not one said they wanted to earn my approval.
Good, I thought.
When the session ended, they climbed out laughing, each leaving wet footprints that crossed and separated across the tiles. No single path looked perfect. Every one led away from my lane. I stayed after they left and listened to the building settle. Water moved against the gutters. A starting buzzer sounded in another room, followed by cheers that did not belong to me. That felt peaceful. My life had widened beyond the distance between a block and a wall. I was still an athlete, but I was also a sister, advocate, teammate, and woman whose value did not disappear when a stopwatch stopped. Celia had measured me for years. I had finally become immeasurable. I once thought rebirth would look like a victory ceremony, bright lights, a national uniform, my name announced above a roaring crowd. It did not. It looked like an empty pool before sunrise. It sounded like silence after a coach stopped controlling the clock. It felt like reaching the wall, with no one waiting to decide whether I deserved kindness. I kept the voicemail. Then, finally, I deleted her voice from my head.